Hello, everyone, and welcome to 180 Degrees of Impact. My name is Matt Scott, and today I am very thankful to be joined by Dr. لاله Bختیار, who is with me right now. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I look forward to the interview and getting to know you better and your program.
Thank you, and it's really an honor to be able to talk with you for a lot of reasons, not just because of your distinguished work and career, which we'll talk about, and not just because of your courage to do all that you're doing, but because for about almost the past five years, I've had the privilege of knowing your daughter, Devar, who just recently wrote a beautiful feature about you, a series. And so I want to dive in and learn more about not just what you do, because that's very well documented, but why you do the things that you do in terms of your career and the bravery that you bring to the world. So without further ado, I'd love if you could introduce yourself to the 180 Degrees of Impact audience.
Sure. My name, as Matt has told you, is لاله Bختیار, and I am a writer, translator, teacher, publisher, counseling psychologist. I wear a lot of different hats.
Right.
In other words, yeah.
Wow. Okay. I think it's interesting because you do wear a lot of different hats, and I think that's one thing that I am really amazed by. Before these interviews, I do different research where I am listening to, other interviews and conversations and stories that you put out there. And one of them, someone asked you, how do you find the time to write all of the books that you've written? How do you find the time to do all that you're doing and wear so many hats?
Well, actually, it's just kind of how life unfolded for me, because it was 25 years ago. Right now, I'm 80. Mm-hmm. So 25 years ago, I finished my graduate work as a grandmother, and I came to Kazi Publications, and they had book distribution, but they didn't have book production. So Kazi Publications is the oldest Muslim publisher in North America. They started in 1972 in Chicago. And so they were really looking for someone who knew book production. And that's how I had gotten through my graduate work and so forth, and previously as a publisher. So I was able to kind of fill in there. And by then, my 3 children were married, and I had grandchildren. So, and no one lives in Chicago. Right. They all live in 3 different states.
No distractions.
So, yeah, I go and visit, when I can. But because the 5 times a day Muslim prayers are very important, so I get up very early for the morning prayer, and I work basically about 12 hours. And I do this 7 days a week because I'm on the phone often with my children. It's not like I'm not in communication, but, and every 2 or 3 months I travel to visit one of them because I'm only one person and they are, several. Mm-hmm. So it just, you just stay focused on what you're doing, but basically it's because you have passion for what you do. So I don't like to call it work because it's just so much a part of me to continue to write and research and read. And, as a child, books were the most important thing to me, even more than, I was always in love with books. And so somehow it worked out in my life that I ended up becoming a publisher, which I had never intended to. I was going to be a doctor, and then I was going to be a nurse, and then I was going to be a, lawyer. I went to law school. Then, no, I want to be a city planner because my husband's an architect. And so I went into city planning and so forth and so on. And then I ended up becoming a mother, which was the greatest blessing ever. And then while I was married to my former husband, Nader Ardalan, the University of Chicago, we were living in Iran at that time, and the University of Chicago Press asked for an architect to write about architecture, Iranian architecture, from a different perspective, not historic, for instance, like from the view of someone who actually creates things. And so he, knowing that he was busy in his work and also that he isn't basically a researcher, so he asked me to join him, and we did the work together. And it's called The Sense of Unity, the Sufi Tradition in Persian Architecture. As a result, after that, another publisher, Thames and Hudson in London, asked me to write a book, introductory book on Sufism. And I wrote Sufi Expressions of the Mystic Quest. So suddenly, a few years later, when I was facing divorce and thought, well, what am I going to do? Because I've always been at home. I realized that I'm actually a publisher so, and writer and so forth and so on. So as I say, it wasn't something I had planned on. It just suddenly kind of happened. And it's really important to follow the signs, whatever the signs are for you. And if you're reading the signs wrong or they don't seem to be working, then, look at other signs and so forth. But just follow your passion, follow your heart to the extent that you can, because obviously we have, livelihood we have to earn, and we have to support ourselves, and we have to be there for our children, and we do all of those. But in our free time, or whatever time you get, you can then devote it to the things that you really love to do. So I was fortunate because by that time I was a grandmother, and as you know, grandmothers don't have the same responsibility for children and disciplining them. They can just love them from close or far, and so you don't need to be involved in their day-to-day life. As a matter of fact, your